And welcome back. Now we're doing the scrap deck. Let's get started, shall we? First off, we'll start off with Scrap Golem. Now, Scrap Golem allows you to special summon a level 4 lower scrap monster from a graveyard to either side of the field. So what you usually do is you put it on your side of the field, mainly because he's got a good attack and he can keep summoning, so he can shoot him using the synchro quite fast. So that's the first part for him. Heck, you can use 3 Scrap Golem effects if you want. Summon 3 times and such. It's a synchro. Next up, we got Scrap Beast. Now, like all scraps, Scrap Beast has the ability when a scrap monster is destroyed by a scrap effect. But their effects vary. You can either add them to your hand, or you can end up special summoning them, depending on the scrap monster. It's hard to combo with these guys, but Orthrus is a good way of bringing them to scrap. Like, for example, Scrap Searcher, when the scrap monster is destroyed by a scrap effect, special summon them. And then you can start synchroing like crazy. So there's a combo you can pull off with the Orthrus and stuff. Scrap Crash pretty much gives you when destroys all face-up spells and traps when the scrap monster is destroyed and sent to the grave. So Scrap Orthrus. It can only be special summoned when there's a scrap monster in the field. I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think you can special summon it from your hand. I'll have to look up the ruling on that. But I do know if you use Scrap Golem to bring him out, you have to destroy scrap monsters. So make sure you have an extra scrap monster other than Golem on the field, because that way you'll screw yourself over in the long run. But that's what I do anyways. Scrap Goblin, good card. You can't combo this very well, but it's still a good card if you can pull it off, because you can keep bringing scraps back to your hand or something if you keep using their effects. But a really good combo is Scrap Breaker. And then you select from face-up scrap monster you control and destroy it. But it's not optional; it's mandatory. So but if you can bring out your monster, you can synchro right away. So just be careful, of screwing yourself over if you have one of the monster. But you have to have at least 2 other monsters before Scrap Breaker hits the field, so you can get the scrap effect and etc. etc. You know what I mean? Next up, Scrapyard. Send Scrap Tuner from your deck to the grave. Actually, no, it says, sorry, no, add a Scrap Tuner from your deck to your hand, sorry. So if you can add any Scrap Tuner, just go right ahead and do whatever you want. There's tons of Scrap Tuners in a deck that you can use to your advantage, blah, blah, blah. Scrap Worm. Now, when it's destroyed by an effect of a scrap card, add a scrap monster from your graveyard to your hand. So probably add whatever scrap monster you have. Like I said, you can combo anything with Scrap Searcher. Scrap Searcher always gets special summon when the scrap monster is destroyed by a scrap effect, even itself. Scrap Beast, I already explained. Scrap Shark. Now, he's a level 4 monster with 2100 attack. Even though he has a good attack, not so good for effect, because he destroys himself when an effect is activated. But you can still combo it with Scrap Searcher, like I said. I mean, this is what helps the deck, is that they always bring them back to the hand or field or something, whatever effect it is. Let's see, Scrap Hunter. Now, Scrap Hunter allows you to destroy a scrap monster and send a tuner from your deck to the graveyard. Because your deck is based around bringing scraps back from your graveyard. That's what you want to do. You can even use Scrap Sheen as well and give any scrap monster 1,000. So do stuff do it mainly for your high level synchro monsters, because of the fact that you can overpower your opponent and just wail on them with the higher attackers. It's easy to synchro in this deck. It really is. skip these. Chimera. Now, Chimera allows you to special summon any scrap tuner from your deck when it's summoned. So if you have like Golem on the field, and you have one other monster, summon Chimera. I'm just using this as an example. So like, okay, I'll show you. So let's say you have Scrap Golem on the field, and you have Scrap Goblin. Or if you, and then you summon Scrap Chimera, and if it's in your graveyard, hold on. Special summon Scrap Orthrus, destroy Scrap Goblin. Special summon Scrap Searcher. Use Golem's effect if you haven't used it. Summon any scrap monster from your graveyard, and then synchro for whatever you got. So look at this. If you have these 4 in the field, you can go for an 8 or a 9. It's totally up to you. Because I believe Atomic Scrap takes like 3 monsters to summon for it. But it's worth it in the process. So believe me, it is. That's why I usually only run like 1 Scrap Orthrus in this deck. Got to Steal. Let's see. Now you can select 3 scraps monsters in grave, and your opponent chooses one of them, and then it's special outside the field, and the other ones that were not chosen are then removed. But you know what? A lot of people don't care if their monsters get removed because they can just bring them back or just find a way to reuse them. Man, this is short. Scrap Storm. Now, when selecting a physical scrap monster, you can send it into the grave from your deck, draw 1 card, then destroy the monster. Like I said, every time a scrap is destroyed, you get its effect. But it's only if it's destroyed by scrap effect. Scrap Kong. Now, you cannot normal summon it without it being destroyed. So regardless, it's getting destroyed no matter what, unless you special summon it. But you know what? It's going to get its effect either way. Well, not either way, but if it's destroyed by its own effect. Scrap Rage. It just gives your scrap monster a high defense. So if your monster has a certain defense, like let's say I got Scrap Golem on the field in defense mode. Scrap Rage activates. He becomes a 3400 defender. No questions asked. No questions answered. Lol. Scrap Crash, which I already mentioned, so I'm not going to bother with that. Next up is the Synchros. Now, Scrap Archfiend is not going to do much. When you're facing a Scrap Synchros, don't worry about Archfiend. The only thing I don't worry about is his high attack. He's 2700. Scrap Dragon, on the other hand, worry about him. He's the most threatening of all the scrap monsters in terms of effects, because he can pretty much decimate the crap out of you. So just watch for it, because he is quite lethal. Scrap Twin, even though he's got a higher attack, he's not so much as dangerous as Scrap Dragon. That's why no one actually uses him that often. Surprisingly enough, that's the truth. And then you got Atomic Scrap Dragon, which is the Cyber Dragon of the Cyber Dragon of the 5E's era. It doesn't have piercing, but just has a major ass high attack. But his effect can also be quite annoying if you... Like, all the scrap monsters' effects can be annoying. Just watch for them. Make sure you lock your opponents so they can't use spells or traps to stop your monsters, and etc. etc. Now, hopefully some of these tricks have helped you. We'll see you next time when I do another tip. See y'all then.